I'm just gonna go watch a movie.
Leaving the bathroom with Febreze, it's your boy Oni Pepperoni from Pizza Party Art. Today we have TUBI and Clout on the menu as we deep dive to find the best, the most obscure horror gems on TUBI. The best part of TUBI is it's free. The baseline criteria was anything horror on TUBI with under 5,000 views on Letterboxd. So instead of counting down from 15 to 1, it's more like 3,600 to 78. These movies are an equal mix of stomach-busting comedy and what the fuckery, and stomach-churning dread just in time to kickstart your SAD. Unnecessarily esoteric? Impossible. Can't you taste the cred? The likes? Links and timestamps down below. A Blade in the Dark. A composer rents out a villa to finish a horror movie soundtrack. Neighbors around are murdered one by one, and our artist is forced to switch gears and compose a way to stay alive. The first thing 80s giallo reminds me of is Tenebrae. The next is A Blade in the Dark. Directed by Lamberto Bava, son of genre progenitor Mario Bava, his addition to the genre is essential 80s canon. Coincidentally enough, Lamberto was an assistant director in Tenebrae, and I think he picked up more than a thing or two from Argento. Definitely not as grand as Daddy Dario's masterpiece, it is almost as chilling. Interior shots are sparsely decorated, exterior shapes are very angular. One might describe it as brutalist, but that term is currently claimed by Dune Discourse. Originally developed as a 4-episode TV show, it was deemed too violent for broadcast and was thusly changed into a feature film. As it has one of the meanest kills in the genre, I can understand why. Recommended for those afraid of liminal spaces and those who pick Solange over Beyonce. The Black Belly of the Tarantula. A spa murder incites a police investigation with little to go on other than the killer's method of paralyzing his victims with poison needles before slicing them open. Leaving the cold grasp of A Blade in the Dark and Tenebrae, we find ourselves in a sensual caress of a giallo with Black Belly of the Tarantula. Major lounge and after-party vibes, beautiful women matched by a beautiful Ennio Morricone score. There is a reason why this film is always mentioned when introduced to the giallo genre. Black Belly has gnarly kills, but it also capitalizes on that portrayal of glitz, glamour, and the high life that enticed audiences back then, while still retaining its bougie sheen today. For fans of MTV Cribs and Bond girls, because they're not one, not two, but 3 of them here.
Hi. You must be Miles. I'm Louise.
CHILLERAMA. Horror anthologies are hit or miss, but how can you resist titles like Wadzilla and The Diary of Anne Frankenstein? 4 breezy tales with a wraparound of a drive-in showing 4 movies, including gay werewolves and kaiju sperm monsters. These are all done with tongue firmly in cheek. Bad taste, crude jokes, tactical effects. I'm sure hearing me talk about this was enough to help you decide whether to watch it or make a frowny face or sneeze or something. It's justifiably gross. For trauma fans, content creators, and fans of wet movies. The Untold Story. A chef loses his cool and kills his employees. He also has the best meat pies in town. Guess what he puts in them? Perhaps the most popular of the very cool and very extreme Category 3 subgenre, aka Hong Kong flicks released around 1988 to 1999. The content typically falls between a hard R and NC-17 rating. Known in film circles for purposely inciting disgust and shock, not unlike another hard R, IRL. Violence, sexual violence, a stew of gore, lots of blood spurts, and just an overall misanthropic movie. And yet, it attempts to combine that with a buddy-buddy cop atmosphere in the police force that's assigned to try and catch the dude. It's a tonal clash that will alienate or attract. In spite of those attempts at comedy, the movie is a continuous build-up to the initial crime which raised suspicions for the chef's arrest. It's certainly something. I'll leave it at that. For practical effects nuts, martial arts, or horror fans looking to expand the breadth of their taste, and respected loners. Also, since it's based on true events, true crimers might be interested too. Keep an eye out for chopsticks. Dark Waters. After receiving an inheritance from her father, a woman investigates why he donated to an island convent for the past 20 years. She wants to know where the money's going and if she should continue the donations herself. Before The Color of Space, this movie was the closest thing I've seen to a good Lovecraftian flick. Layered with religion, coastal scenery, and visually arresting images, it is very dreamy and just cryptic enough. The first thing that attracted me to the movie was hearing someone on a podcast say that it had the most realistic stabbing they've ever seen. The stabbing looks legit, but I definitely stayed for the underserved seaside horror aesthetic combined with the evergreen convent nun imagery. The nuns. Almost forgot to mention that. It does have shades of nunsploitation, but only shades, as this movie is way more horror and artsy than it is sleazy. I'd treat this as one of those movies you go in as blind as you can. This one is for the Euro horror nuts, the A24 artsy crowd, and those who played the Bloodborne DLC. Case of the Bloody Iris. Fashion models move into a chic Milan high-rise building, and soon young women start to drop dead. One of the models, Jennifer, is more than disturbed as she thinks her former sex cult leader is stalking her. Surprised at the inability of the local police, Jennifer resolves to solve the case not only for the victims, but to close that sordid chapter of her life. When you get into giallo films, you'll find familiar faces appearing in many. The most famous, Edwidge Fenech, is the lead here. At first I didn't really get the cult of Edwidge back then. She is strikingly beautiful, and lazily, I connected the two and put the issue to bed. Case of the Bloody Iris was the first giallo where her performance clicked for me, and I understood why so many looked to her as the leading lady of the genre. Not only is she just Zoolander levels of good looking in this movie, she really gets to show off her acting chops. As the lead, she portrays vulnerable youth unfortunately trapped in a sex cult, and contrasted with how she acts today, presently, with knowing what she wants and taking no shit from anyone, especially the police, her role was surprisingly meaty. And that's just her. The rest of the cast is equally arresting, in particular her orgy-averse roommate. Nearly all scenes get to showcase the fashion and design of the times, the swanky apartments. It also has an earworm of a theme by Stelvio Cipriani. The local favorite of the giallo. If you can't decide, you can always pick this one to hit the spot. Recommended for torso fans, fashionistas, and large tie enthusiasts. The Suckling. A woman is coerced by her boyfriend to have an abortion at a brothel. The fetus is flushed down a toilet and is mixed with toxic sewage. Mommy's mistake becomes everyone's as the titular suckling proceeds to terrorize the flophouse. The chaos, the taboos, the effects, even the movie's title, The Suckling, can make you cringe. Bad taste? For sure. Irredeemable? I can say that at no point in the movie I was bored, I forgot my phone existed, I was patiently waiting to see how wild this could get. For me, the Suckling was a type of cinematic defibrillator. Perfect for the jaded film fan who has thought they'd seen it all, it shocks you back to life. For schlock and trash connoisseurs, cancel culture enthusiasts, and pro-choicers.
Oh, you stupid creature.
Scanners 3, The Takeover. A man with psychic powers, telekinesis, a scanner, suffers a holiday accident that causes the death of his best friend. Vowing to never use his ability again, he becomes a monk. In his absence, his sister develops into a powerful scanner herself, slowly becoming corrupt with power. If you're not aware, that exploding head gif you see all the time, that's from the movie Scanners. That film had the deft hand of director David Cronenberg, balancing the weight and implications of mind control, transference, groupthink, and ego death. His cerebral approach of the presentation gave it some appearance of scientific credence. It balances out the scenes where you have people making weird TikTok faces to make heads explode. Well, by the third movie, the second sequel, it's all faces here. So many scans. What if Scanners, but kung fu? What if Scanners, but dancing? What if Scanners, but sex? The film is aware of the main reason why people watch them. It's not rocket science. It's something more.
He thinks I know him, but I didn't see anything, you understand? Powell, stop it!
Stefan, my poor brother. Since you arrived, awful things have started. Here you found a hell.
The Bloodstained Shadow. A young college professor returns home to Venice to visit his Catholic priest brother. Town members are killed and both of the brothers are driven to anxiety as it reminds them of their own childhood trauma. Combing bits of other giallo films like Don't Torture a Duckling and the downbeat Who Saw Her Die, we have a late entry in the genre. It's mostly standard fare, which helps explains its obscurity. Had it come out before 1975, it might have been able to make a bigger impact. As it stands, the reason to see this, other than possibly the coolest sheep's wool jacket ever committed on film, is its score by genre mainstay Stelvio Cipriani. If that doesn't mean anything to you, that's okay, because the important thing is that Stelvio was given a chance to collaborate with Italian genre music giants Goblin. Since they were separated from Argento, the music they made isn't anything like Suspiria or Tenebrae. Not so much prog rock or proto-electro. The score is definitely more Morricone, a more classically lush score with synthy overtones. Is it a necessary stop early on in the genre? I don't think so, but it is an inevitable pit stop once you get addicted to these films and need a fix. The Zodiac Killer. Before Fincher's movie and 40 years preceding recent headlines, The Zodiac Killer was kind of a mix of a documentary with a PSA-like presentation. One of the few films, perhaps the only one, that was made with the purpose of finding an actual killer. It might be exploitation in its purest form, as it was made so close to the actual events. Like your parents' show America's Most Wanted or your friend's podcast, it tries to tastefully convey information and entertainment. I know I found it entertaining, but I can't in good conscience actually recommend this with a straight face. Though to its credit, there is one murder with a car that made me wince. Obviously, the film did not lead to the capture of the Zodiac Killer. I do like to think that if the Zodiac did end up watching this, the blow to his ego would be so immense because I'm sure he would not want to be associated with something so artistic.
Mother? Dad? Talk to me!
But if you are even the least bit curious, perhaps it is worth a 20-minute sample of your time to satisfy your curiosity. For fans of Al Adamson, Andy Milligan, and cable TV reenactments.
The Zodiac, that's me! I'm the Zodiac! Get away! Get away from me!
Keep this. Look upon it to allay this memory.
Dark Angel, the Ascent. A demon is told of a passage between hell and earth. Unable to control her own curiosity of the surface world, she sexily exits the nether, Terminator style. She soon finds herself entangled with punishing various sinners she encounters while attempting to romance a handsome surgeon. Bizarro, proto-Buffy, The Craft, 90s goth, occult type movie that spends almost as much time trying to develop a romance as well as offering stupendously gory kills. Its off-key soap opera levels of acting and flat performances of course lead to unintended humor, but I don't think that gives the movie enough credit. There are jokes that were for sure intended to be funny and got more than a couple chuckles from me. How something so slapdash is able to entertain speaks to a certain level of craftsmanship, treating filmmaking more like a trade than an art. Like, it's bad, but done in a way that you only notice the bad parts the movie wants you to notice. If you're able to get past the plotting first 20 minutes, you'll be treated to a very unique thing that is certainly a movie. Family Portraits. All right, this is the movie that's going to twist your stomach, the one that's going to punch you in the gut. A compilation of 3 short films, a trilogy of sorts. The basic idea is that these shorts take the squeaky clean, idealized image of the nuclear family of the 1950s Leave It to Beaver, by golly, aw shucks, meatloaf and casserole for dinner and bed by 7:30 nuclear family. Now take that image and give it the BTK killer treatment. First is the most infamous and probably the one horror diehards have seen. We've got a father a little too interested in his son. There's implied child abuse. Mom tries to get his attention through clothes and makeup, but then resorts to self-harm. It's a great wreck for gorehounds, as the gore is, quote, very gory, with supervision under Tom Savini. Hard to watch if you don't work in medicine. Second is a tale of how a father's abuse towards his family travels through generations. Generational trauma ends in generational annihilation. Though we have some striking imagery, most of the violence is implied. The most vanilla of the bunch, if that means anything to you. The third is my vote for the best. We follow a young woman returning to her hometown after recovering from a traumatic attack. We see how people treat her differently, how isolating trauma can be, and how it lingers. We are also given scenes from her abuser's point of view, what they're doing these days, and these 2 characters eventually meet. The longest movie of the bunch, the most character-focused, the most artistic, and the most shocking. It can seem a little meandering, especially if you're expecting violence like in the first 2. It's actually just a subject matter that's dark as hell. As such, this is a good recommendation for true crime fans, as the horror in here is very real. I'd also recommend this for cinephiles into directors like Todd Solondz, Without the Humor, or Michael Fun and Games Haneke. If you want something to fuck your shit up, look no further. Allison's birthday. Allison returns from university to celebrate her 19th birthday, despite spiritual warnings she received when she was 16. An Australian made-for-TV movie, a supernatural affair with a folk horror twist, but not too many twists, especially if you've seen The Wicker Man or other movies with cults. What is interesting is how the film goes about it. Lots of folk horror is known to be slow, tending to focus on atmosphere before its climax. As this was edited for TV, the commercial break interstitials do well to break up the pace into more digestible bites. A significant chunk of time is invested with Allison and her boyfriend. The creepy family members that passively, aggressively try to break them up make you root for the couple even more. You don't want anything bad to happen to either of them. Watching this, I thought I had this movie figured out, and I mean, I more or less did, but it still ended with so much panache. It ends on a freeze frame that is just, so good. That's a trend I'd like to see come back. When they work, it just leaves you at a high point and you kind of need the ending credits to soak it all in. Another recommendation for the B25ers.
Oh, it's near enough to closing time. Might as well get out of here.
Oh, having lunch with Don today, are you? Allison.
Yep. Pack it in, let's call it a day.
That was a lot of talking. It's cool. My only regret on that list was my inability to finesse a Hamlet joke in there. Have you seen these movies? What do you think? Cool. Do you have any other TUBI gems to recommend? Awesome. Consider subbing that sub and clicking that like. Thanks for watching. I'm Oni Pepperoni from Pizza Party Art. Ciao.